Hello again. Isn't this a nice model? It doesn't predict anything, but it's a good way to illustrate something. Gravity and acceleration. Let's talk about model purposes. It starts with the real world. Well, now we see a rectangle, more like a model. The real world would be more like some vague cloud. Here we have it. Yeah. Within that real world, we might be interested in some particular causal chain, say the relationship between recycling, resource use, and subsidies that could change the equilibrium. Then we have theories. For instance, here I have some very comprehensive theories about social life, some of which I've used in some of my models. And then we have our model. Now, the most ambitious purpose of a model is to predict the real world, as in a crystal ball. The weather forecast does this, and as you know, that is hard enough. But I have this very clever device that belonged to my grandparents, born in the 19th century. It's an atmospheric pressure meter, a barometer. And this dial here shows the atmospheric pressure. This one is one you can set yourself. And if you set it, for instance, each morning at 7, then the next morning you can see how pressure has changed. This is high pressure, and that always means fine weather in my country. So here it says bestendig, mooi, all fine. Here it says storm, rain, all bad. You can see that right now the pressure is high, and actually outside the sun is shining. Of course, we are now in the basement recording this film. So this is a clever predictive device. Most models cannot go that far. Most agent-based models are about such complex systems that prediction is not possible. Sometimes second-order effects can be predicted, such as trends or probabilities or tipping points. Sensitivity analysis of agent-based models can reveal such second-order effects. For instance, do you remember the Victoria Milk Factory model with the employees who could wash their hands or not? I believe the sensitivity of that model to employee commitment is probably realistic. Aim 2. Explanation of a chain of causes and effects. With agent-based models, this is usually something that works backwards. You observe a pattern in the real world, and you try to let your model grow that pattern. And that counts as a possible explanation of the pattern. The simpler the model, with emergent complexity instead of complicated rules for the agents, the better it is. Aim 3. Theory exposition. The model can show what a theory can do if you model its dynamics. I did this for the playground model, the one with the children that had this gender status gap thing. In that model, I implemented the status power theory of social relations proposed by Theodor Kemper for the interactions between the children. And one of the dimensions of culture from the work of Hofstede that I participated in myself for the fight tolerance of the culture in the classroom. Aim 4, illustration. This is a way of making an idea plausible. For instance, the Schelling model that you see here explains how just a small level of xenophobia is sufficient to generate ethnic neighborhoods in a city. It's counterintuitive, but it's an emergent phenomenon. Many models in the NetLogo library are meant as illustrations of principles. Aim 5, analogy. This is also about an idea, just like illustration, but that idea is not so much theoretical as empirical, something in the real world. And these tend to be simple models. Their simplicity can make them more convincing, as for example, this model that we've seen with the termites building their nests in their two-dimensional world with the wood chips. Aim 6, description. Here the model tries to be a picture of the real world to gain a comprehensive understanding. So it's less ambitious than prediction and less precise than explanation. For instance, This wooden model here describes the anatomy of the human body. You can make it move in a more or less realistic way. The joints are more or less realistic. And you can use it for drawing. It doesn't predict anything, but it's a good help for artists. Many agent-based models used in practice for policy support or so, for instance, are also descriptions. So we see that models can be about the real world, about theory, about ideas that might be more theoretical or more real-world oriented. Of course, these ambitions are not black or white. A model could do something and a bit of something else, like describe and explain. If you go and create models, it's good to pick your ambition level clearly and also to communicate it to the public. If you are making an illustration or a description and the public thinks you make a prediction, then you can get into bad misunderstandings. So, in conclusion, here we see House of Parliament in Canada, a model and the real thing. Never look at a model without having an idea what it was made for. And by the way, models are used for learning something. Most models are not for eternity. You remember the lessons learned, but throw away the model. See you next time.